When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Attention, attention. We got a live hawk in the studio. Sophia, did you take the check last week and renew our hawk insurance? Did you do that? You sent the check? Fantastic. We're all up to snuff here at CJ at 800 with Sonora, who is a hawk, and she's joined by her falconer. Wait, what's the relationship? You are what to Sonora?
I'm her colleague/trainer.
Colleague/trainer. The voice you heard there is Geneviève Zaloum, wildlife control officer at Falcon Environmental and an educator at Falcon-Ed. Geneviève, your resume is one of those resumes you want. Pretty awesome. Biologist, the whole thing. How do you get into a career like this where you get to work with this glorious, beautiful animal, this hawk, Sonora?
A lot of the colleagues that I work with were all biologists or field technicians in some way, shape, or form. So I studied applied zoology back in the day and came on an opportunity to do bird shows at the summit of Mont Tremblant during the summer and evolved that opportunity to become responsible for our education program and help out with the company where I can.
What can you tell me about Sonora? Why is Sonora so good at her job? And obviously we'll get into what her job exactly is, but what makes Sonora so special?
So Sonora is a Harris hawk, and they're a species that's native to the southwest USA. They're a cooperative bird of prey, so they hunt in packs kind of like wolves, so they're called wolves of the sky.
Oh, interesting. I'm even more afraid.
She doesn't howl, though.
Okay, gotcha.
And because of that nature, they are very common in falconry, so hunting with a bird of prey. And although she's born in captivity, her instinct to hunt is there. So when we're working at an airport or a landfill site, when she sees small animals like starlings or ducks, she instinctually wants to hunt them, and we give her the opportunity to do so.
Why is it so important that Sonora and other hawks like her hunt at airports?
At an airport, planes are taking off and landing regularly, and it's a big open space where a lot of animals are attracted to because there's very few humans. But a plane that takes off and crashes and collides with a duck or a goose is a very hazardous situation and can cause very severe damages and costly repairs and delays. So having a natural predator on site at the airport makes these birds think twice about hanging out. So we're actively patrolling the runways, making sure that these animals, when observed, are removed in any way, shape, or form. So falconry is one of the tools that we use among many different tools in our toolbox to scare off and make the runways safer for planes taking off.
What's a work day for Sonora? When does she start, and is it a constant all day, 24 hours? Like, how does it work?
So our officers are there from sun up to sundown. So especially when spring comes around and the birds are coming back from migration, that's when her job really starts. And then there's the time when these birds are going to start breeding, when they have babies, and that's when it really comes into play, her responsibility, because these babies don't really know very much. They're naive, and they think, oh, this big metal thing, it's great.
So Sonora and the rest of her pack, a pack? Is it a pack? What is her colleagues?
Colleagues.
Her avian colleagues?
Exactly.
So what? Just exactly, they're out to kill, right? They're getting the job done, right?
It is their main instinct. I can't always say that they succeed in catching all the time. Yeah. But as a wildlife control officer, it is really fun when you succeed.
Gotcha. It's fun when you succeed. Okay, so what are the you mentioned, is there certain types of birds or other animals that are a big problem? Let's say a typical airport.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think if you think back at the LaGuardia Airport situation with
what was that situation?
The Canada geese that collided with the plane. They made a movie about it.
Yes. Oh God. Yeah.
So that kind of scenario happens in many different types of airports, depending on the logistics of that airport, what wildlife is drawn to that airport, what risk factors are around. So many different birds cause a risk in some way, shape, or form. 1,000 starlings in a flock versus two Canada geese have very similar impact to a plane when the plane is taking off or landing, and that suction can destroy a motor and cause a plane crash.
We're speaking with Wildlife Control Officer Geneviève Zaloum, and of course she's joined by her hawk, Sonora. Is there, birds like these used pretty much at every airport in certain respects?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Is there alternatives to using a hawk?
For sure, using a natural predator is a very effective way of control, but it's not necessarily the only tool that one can use, and many different airports have different wildlife encounters. If you go up north, their biggest issue are caribou on the runway.
Wow. Yeah.
So not so much something that Sonora could take care of, but definitely opportunity for a wildlife control officer to do different types of work there to make sure that those animals don't have access to the runway.
What is your day like?
Good question. So I'm responsible for a lot of different things within the company, whether it's our bird collection, our education program, and on day-to-day, the occasional wildlife control opportunity. So it can be just, training birds in the morning and then doing some paperwork or heading out onto the runway or a landfill site.
When you say train,
yeah.
like how much can you say to Sonora, go get that guy? You know what I mean? And when you talk about that training process, like how specific or how much can you actually train a bird like Sonora?
So their training is mainly based on an appetite that we develop with the birds. So
what does that mean, an appetite? Because I'm thinking, okay, I'm hungry appetite. Like, what does that mean?
It is, I'm hungry appetite.
Okay.
Like if you just had Thanksgiving dinner and I ask you to go run a marathon, you're going to be like, thanks, but no thanks. So same thing for her. If I ask her, go get that duck and she's full, she's going to say thanks, but no thanks. So when we first meet, Sonora would be very scared of me. She is, although born in captivity, very wild at heart. So you'll never domesticate a bird of prey. And when we start spending time together, it goes through a manning process. So getting them used to humans, desensitizing them to their environment, getting them comfortable with us and realizing that we're not a predator, we're not going to harm them. And then we try and figure out what they're going to do for food. So give them opportunities to eat and establish what's called a flight weight. So a weight where they're motivated by their hunger to fly to a certain destination, fly to a certain animal.
Yeah.
And just like a wild peregrine falcon mom needs to show his wild peregrine baby how to hunt pigeons in the city.
Gotcha.
You give opportunities that become harder and harder as they progress.
How old is Sonora? How long did this take? Because it was remarkable when you came in. I went outside of the studio, and you had Sonora on your hand with a glove, and then you said, "Oh, do you want to take the glove?" And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be impossible. How are we going to do that?" And you literally just slipped off the glove. Sonora stays on the glove. I put my hand in, and there's no fuss, no muss. How long does that take to get to that level?
So Sonora's 2 years old. And I'd say from getting a bird to completely wild to a free flight can take 30 days.
Yeah.
It is impressive.
30?
30 days.
I thought you were going to say something a lot longer than that. Wow.
But their continuous training helps them to become more and more at ease. The more that I work with Sonora, the more she becomes accustomed to different environments and then eventually coming into radio studios, which is not a typical thing for a bird of prey.
It is not typical at all. Well, Sonora is an absolutely beautiful animal. You feel like there are times during your workday you look at one of these birds and you go, "Oh my goodness, I'm so lucky." Like what happens?
I sometimes become a little bit enthralled by these birds.
You do education programs. I want to point this out. You do education programs in schools and such?
Yep. So we visit Montreal area's schools throughout the school year from September to June. And then as of the summer, we're at Mont Tremblant at the summit doing bird shows.
Oh, wow. Okay, wonderful. So plenty of opportunities to find out more about these glorious birds. Geneviève Zaloum, Wildlife Control Officer at Falcon, Environmental Educator at Falcon-Ed, and of course, the beautiful Sonora. Harris hawk, you said?
The Harris hawk.
The Harris hawk. Fun stuff.